Everyone, thank you for joining me today for the Welcome Series workshop, How to Make a Great First Email Impression. My name's Dan Hare. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Forefront. Great, that's a good start, isn't it? And I'm your host for this afternoon, and I will be teaching you hopefully a thing or two about a welcome series, which is a sequence of emails that you use to introduce yourself to new subscribers or indeed customers. And I've got a packed agenda for you. In this short session, we are going to look at planning. We're going to look at best practices. I'm going to give you a practical demonstration of the tools inside eShot that you would use to create a welcome series, and then there will be time at the end for questions and answers. So what we're going to do to begin with is I'm just going to talk to you about why you would have a welcome series. As I say, it's a sequence of emails that you use to introduce new subscribers or perhaps new customers to your brand, to a particular product or another aspect of your services. And they are one of the most important aspects of a modern email marketing program because they are so important. They are your chance to start to build a relationship with your subscribers or with your customers. It's your opportunity to make a great first impression. And what we've seen from our own data, and indeed it's backed up from many other industry studies, is welcome emails and emails in a welcome series tend to outperform every and any other form of email marketing by a considerable margin. 5 times is not uncommon. Most of the welcome series I look at, you're looking at engagement rates well over 50%. Now, why might that be? Well, if you think about it, a welcome series is your first engagement with a contact, a customer or a subscriber who's trusted you with their details, and chances are there's something that they want or indeed something that they need, so there'll be a reason behind their sign up. So it's your opportunity to reciprocate that trust that they've shown you in passing in imparting their details with you. So it's a great way to ensure that you start things off on the right foot from an email perspective and in the more general sense of having a subscriber or indeed a customer relationship. And weirdly, that actually helps from a deliverability perspective. When I say deliverability, I mean about making sure emails go to the inbox and not some of these other nasty places they can end up. And the reason for that is, unfortunately, nowadays with such paranoia around cybersecurity, there is a presumption of guilt until proven innocent with a lot of people's mailbox setups. What that means is when your Gmail account sees an email from a new sender for the first time, it might treat it with suspicion. It might put it in the promotions tab. It might put it in the spam folder, depending on a whole bunch of variables. And indeed, if your welcome emails do end up in junk on that initial send, that's okay to some extent because it's back to that point of making a great first impression. Usually a welcome series is triggered by somebody signing up for something on your website. So therefore, if your web pages instruct them that you are going to email them very quickly after you have they have signed up, they're going to go and look for that email. And if they do find it in somewhere where it shouldn't be, ideally they should fish it out of that junk folder or the promotions tab, put it in the inbox, and that will teach their mailbox that emails from you are wanted in the future. So it can help with deliverability. Now, of course, you might say, well, I'm going to email them anyway because they've signed up to my newsletter. But just consider this. What sort of cadence do you have with your newsletters? We have plenty of customers who send newsletters on a daily basis, a lot of publishers. But for most organizations, it tends to be a weekly or indeed monthly operation. And if you consider that if you sent your monthly newsletter yesterday, somebody could sign up to your newsletter list today. And therefore, if it's another month until your next one's planned, theoretically, there could be the best part of a month before they actually get something from you. And when they do get that email from you, they might not notice it. They might forget they've signed up. And therefore, a welcome series is a good way to break the ice early doors. If they've parted their details with you today, then email them today. And maybe, as we'll look at as we go through the workshop today, maybe email them again tomorrow and the next day, just to make sure that relationship starts off on the right foot. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to cover a little bit of best practice as well as looking at the practical demonstration of what's in the product. And I've put together a notional 3 email sequence for us to use as a basis for some of the examples that we're going to look at today. It doesn't have to be 3 emails. Indeed, a lot of people just have a single welcome email. Equally, we have got customers who have got 10 or 15 emails in their welcome series, although that tends to be more a kind of customer lifecycle program where they're managing the relationship over a longer period. But if we just think about making a great first impression, if we think about getting really great engagement with those early sends, notionally, we'll stick to 3 emails today. Email 1, email 2, email 3. And again, these things can be mixed up depending on your own priorities, depending on the content that you have available to you. This isn't a kind of fixed rule in terms of what should go into each of these emails. But as a general kind of principle here, what we're doing is we're taking people through 3 distinct phases with those 3 emails. Managing their expectations, getting them excited about you, your brand, your company, and then seeking to deepen that relationship with something which is a little bit more engaging. So if we just look at some examples of the sorts of things you might do in each of those emails, and I would emphasize, the reason these are on a post-it note here, please don't jump straight into the product. Please don't start programming an automated series this afternoon to do your welcome emails. It does take, it's in the planning and preparation phase, devising what content you're going to put into a welcome series is probably the most challenging piece of this puzzle, and it's also the most important. So take time to plan it on paper and work out what you're going to do before you start actually building things in eShop. Let's look at email 1 then. Expectations. How are we going to ensure that the relationship stays off on the right foot, starts on the right foot? How are we going to make sure that any practicalities or legalities are covered? And quite often that means a really, really simple initial message. Something like this one from Shell Energy: you're in safe hands. They have trusted you with their data. You are a new customer. You're a new subscriber, and welcome. And more to the point, if we look at this next example from Four Seasons Hotel Group, thank you. Let us extend a warm welcome to Four Seasons and thank you for signing up to receive our latest news, events, and exclusive offers. Thanking someone in that initial email is an incredibly important and powerful thing to do, but it's also a very simple thing to do, because if you imagine what we're doing here is we're starting a trust relationship. We are setting the tone correctly to begin with. Thank you for trusting us with your data. Thank you for trusting us with your custom. And this is what you can expect from us. And then what you might do if your welcome series is linked to a product or a service more than just a newsletter sign up is you might then look at the ways in which you manage the expectation of what that relationship is going to entail. So it's an opportunity, like this example from Airbnb, to actually tell people what they can do with your service, with your product, with your application, whatever it might be. And again, they're setting the tone there. It's utility, it's useful, it's relevant, but it's practical to them. Now, as I said, the other things that you might want to cover from the practical side of things is the legalities. I'm sure everyone on this webinar today isn't going to take their newsletter signups and share them with a whole bunch of other companies. They're not going to sell the data to others. But it's an important thing to tell people. There is a fundamental mistrust of how organizations handle data nowadays. And we see that manifest itself with all these services that are now coming out where people can hide their actual real email address when they sign up to things. So it's very, very important, even if it's an absolute given from your perspective, that of course you're going to be responsible with their data. It's a good opportunity in that initial engagement to reassure them of your policies, of your procedures around data, and the fact that you are trustworthy and you very much appreciate that they've signed up for emails from you. Now, sorry, I have been playing around with the presentation gadgets, so hopefully now I'm going to move from email 1 onto email 2. There you go, that works. Sorry, just have to geek out on my presentations a little bit. Email 2, we now want to get people excited about being a subscriber, being a customer, getting more involved in the brand. As I say, these two, you could try and do both these things in the initial email, or indeed you might do this out over a longer period. But email 1, you can trust us. Thank you for signing up. Here's some practicalities. Now let's get to the exciting stuff. Content showcases, talk about your brand, talk about your brand values, and indeed show purpose. So for a lot of organizations now, customers aren't just interested in it from a transactional perspective. They're also keen to find out more of you about your organization. And that tends to follow a couple of key themes nowadays, where a lot of brands and a lot of organizations talk about their social value, and indeed they talk about their corporate and social responsibilities. So it's an opportunity for you to get people excited, but also to educate them about your brand. And if we look at how that might manifest itself, welcome email from a brand called United in Blue, illustrating the problem. Every day, 38 million pounds of trash are dumped into our oceans. It's an American email, don't worry, otherwise it would be rubbish, of course. We're here to prove that fashion can be a force for good. And then they talk about their environmental credentials throughout the rest of the email. So obviously there's building trust as far as the email relationship is concerned, building trust from the perspective of looking after their data, but then there's also building trust as far as being a responsible brand. So it's a good opportunity. Like I say, the engagement rates are going to be higher. Now, if you put this sort of information into your general newsletter, which people have been reading for a few years, I'm not so sure they're going to be so interested in it. But when somebody is new, when they're keen to learn about your organization, when they're keen to hear more from you, this is a good opportunity to exploit those high engagement rates by telling them about the things about your organization that they might not otherwise find out for themselves. Likewise, one from the Mayor of London, what I said about a content showcase, you can also use these initial emails to present pieces of content to your subscribers that are going to resonate well. So what most people will have in their content marketing program are a few really good evergreen pieces. What I mean by evergreen is it's something that's going to last. When you program these sorts of automations, you tend to not want to change them every 5 minutes. What I would encourage you to do is review your automations at least once a year, make sure everything's up to date and accurate and still relevant. But the principle of setting it and forgetting it with automation is always present. I wouldn't forget about it completely, but you can forget about it for a few months at least. So if you've got great content, like in the case of the Mayor of London, they've got their quiz to find out about London's air quality. There's something which offers some interactivity. There's something which offers some brand engagement and an educational piece. And it's done in that initial push to engage subscribers as best they can. So as far as that second email is concerned, showcase really great pieces of content from your back catalogue, from your library, get the brand values across, explain the purpose behind your email program, behind the organization, depending on what's appropriate. And it's a chance to get, those new customers, those new subscribers excited in the brand. Email 3, we're then talking about deepening that relationship, getting people engaged, showing them things which they might not be able to find out other than through email. There's an awful lot of consumer brands now, they put huge value on their email program because it remains the most cost-effective way for them to reach an audience at scale. If they're doing things like pay-per-click, if they're doing social media advertising, those tend to be very expensive to continue communicating with the same bunch of people, whereas email, the costs are much, much lower. So therefore, they reward their email subscribers with discounts and with things that they're not going to find on the public internet. They're only going to find as loyal email subscribers. So again, it's an opportunity to tell people what they're going to get from you that others who aren't signed up for their emails aren't. And that can manifest itself in a whole lot of ways. If you're not a consumer brand, if you haven't got offers and products and services, maybe it's exclusive content, maybe it's access to things earlier than others, or some sort of priority. And obviously we talked about corporate social responsibility just now. I have a responsibility to my team as well, so I've had a few of them back in the office recently, and that meant I needed to provide them with coffee and donuts. So I ordered from Costa on the app for the first time, and they straight away said, "Well done, you've got lots of caffeine. Here's a way of getting even more caffeine for free." And likewise, Krispy Kreme donuts. We also had some Krispy Kreme donuts, which I can assure you are lovely. Don't worry, this isn't the first time I've ever ordered from Krispy Kremes. I'm a very, very frequent visitor, but it's the first time I ordered online. And again, they wanted to congratulate me for my first purchase and indeed encourage me to do it again with a reward program. So generally speaking, these initial emails are your opportunity to make a great first impression and to deepen the subscriber or the customer's understanding of you, your organization, and your brand in a variety of ways. Now, as I say, that would be an awful lot of content to get into a single email, hence my suggestion for it being 3, but it can be 5, it can be 10, or it can be a couple. If you haven't got all these pieces of content available to you, it's fine to mix it up. So this is a notional plan for a good varied welcome series of 3 emails. Now, as we move away from the best practice, we'll then start to talk more about the practicalities of actually using eShot to send a welcome series. And for eShot to send a welcome series, what it needs is a source of data, and that is preferably automated as well. Welcome series don't tend to work particularly well if you are manually uploading lists of subscribers. Ordinarily, although I am always terrified of the I word, I will mention it. Integration tends to be the way to approach running a welcome series effectively. And the 2 main sources of data for integration tend to be either your website directly or perhaps your CRM, whichever application internally acts as a single source of truth for all your data. If we focus just on website for today, there's then various ways in which the data can come from your website into eShot itself. First off, we have native forms on the eShot platform, and you're able, if you're an administrator, to go into settings and you're able to create forms in eShot and then deploy them to your website. You can get the code, etc., and put them anywhere you like on your website. For those who want to be a little bit more geeky, you can also tell your developers to integrate one of their website forms into us via the API. And then we have a couple of other integration routes that are available to you as well, the WordPress plugin, and indeed a tool called Zapier. WordPress, if you're running a WordPress website, it's very easy. Once you've installed the plugin in your WordPress solution, you will then be able to manage the forms that you've built in eShot actually natively inside your website interface. And then Zapier is a kind of little Swiss Army knife of integrations. So it gives you the ability to hook eShot up to a vast number of other applications, lots of website tools, lots of CRM tools, where you can effectively get the data to flow from your website, from your CRM, straight into eShot. So as I said, there's a variety of ways in which the data can come in. If you need help and assistance with that, tends to be a little bit more technical. We need to help you scope it and what have you. Equally, I'm sure a lot of you have already got some form of integration in place. When the subscriber data comes in, it's very, very important then that your welcome series triggers those welcome emails to them pretty quickly, usually instantaneously, once they've been added to your database. Now, when we look at the practicalities of how that works, I then need to teach you about some of the actual tools within eShot that you use to achieve that. What happens just from a workflow perspective is someone fills in a form which is embedded on your website, and once they've filled in that form, they get added to a group within eShot. Now, hopefully, as experienced eShot users, you'll know about groups, and they're effectively the lists of contacts that you manage in the CRM section of the application. But what normally happens for most of you, I'm sure, when you create single send campaigns, is you will pick a group and you will send your email manually to a group of people. And what we would do with a welcome series instead is actually use the automated series tool on the platform to trigger a sequence of emails. So rather than you having to manually go, today I am sending this email to these people, instead what you do is you say to eShot, sit there, wait and watch. And when someone's added to that group, then trigger an email to them, and indeed then follow the sequence that's been programmed. And we'll have a look at that sequence in a minute. Now, if you're not familiar with the automated series tool, I would urge a little bit of caution there. It is one of the most sophisticated aspects of the platform. And indeed, we have had to help many customers over the years where they have gone and made things rather complicated using the automated series tool, because you can program very sophisticated sequences of emails. What I would strongly encourage you to do is to keep it simple to begin with and just build a relatively short and simple sequence of emails. Now, that is the point where I have to leave the safety of my slides and actually jump across to the product interface, and the perils of a live demo are now in full effect. And I'm just going to check to see that eShot hasn't logged me out. My goodness, it's okay. I've been quick enough that it hasn't timed out. So I'm just logged into one of our training accounts now. And as I say, what you will have in your interface is a group. And if I just create a group now, we will call it welcome demo. Okay, I'm not actually going to add any subscribers to it today because we're just using it for example purposes. And then under the campaign section, I'm going to create a new campaign. And when I'm presented with the selection of campaign types, I'm sure most of you head here instinctively and automatically most of the time, but today we're going to live dangerously and we're going to venture next door to an automated series. And I'm just going to give that a name of Welcome Series Demo 3, because I think I've already done a couple of others, and I will save and continue at that point. What you're then presented with is the interface where you can actually build the automated sequence, okay? But as I said, what will have happened so far is you will have got your group of contacts integrated with your website via one of our forms, via one of the other those methods, and effectively people are being delivered into the group automatically. Once they're into the group, and if I just click on the little pencil here, it will give me the opportunity to select that welcome demo group. I can save that step. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, this is the start of the automation. When people are added to this group, they're going to start this automation. You can also filter the data, if there are certain people that you want to exclude from that. And I believe we've got a session on save filters coming up next week. The next thing is what you'll see in the automated series tool at each step is you have this little add new step plus button, whereby you can pick from a selection of actions. And there's a couple of key actions which I'm going to talk about today: sending emails and waiting. Okay, and those are the only two you need to create a basic welcome series. So as I say, what we're going to begin with is just sending an email pretty much straight away. So what will happen here when I go into it, here you go, I've got some email designs that we prepared earlier. I'm going to use the welcome series 1 message. And what this is basically saying is, as soon as a contact is added to this group, do this thing next, which is send them the welcome series email. Now, what we then do is we go, well, we don't want to send the next email straight away. We need to have a little bit of a wait. Okay. So what I then do is I go back to my plus button and I add what's called a wait condition in there. And it's completely up to you. Wait 2 days. It can be however long you like. But effectively, I'm going to tell eShop, so once they've sent the first email, to wait a couple of days, and then once it's past that step, I will then add another email, welcome series email 2. Okay, so just to recap what's happening here, someone's been added to the group because they've signed up via the form. We've sent them the first email straight away. We've then told the system to wait for a couple of days, and then we've told them to send the second welcome email. Now, in terms of the third email in the sequence, we'll do something just a little bit different. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to go back to the plus button. I'm going to choose the wait again, but I'm just going to do wait for days of the week. Okay. And the reason I just want to use that as an example is people can sign up to your newsletter. They can become customers any time of day or night. Usually for most people's website experiences, they're not kind of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And indeed, we do see lots of signups at, quite frankly, strange times. But if you are dealing with a professional audience, if you're talking to people's work addresses rather than their home addresses, what you might want to consider is actually doing the sequence during the working week. So what you might do is, instead of saying wait for 2 days, you say wait until 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. Okay. And then what will happen is, once email 2 has been sent, it's just going to basically sit there and wait until the following Tuesday. Now, that means that the gap between the second email and the third email might be a day, it might be 7 days, but I know from having helped other customers with these previously, when you do it kind of raw with just a 2-day waits each time, some people don't like the fact that emails are going out in the small hours of a Saturday and things like that. So you can use the wait for step, as I say, to wait for a period of time, be that hours, days, or minutes. You can wait for a specific date or time. If it's a launch of something, you could say, oh, well, they're not going to get the launch email until we actually launch, which is on a specific date and time. And then indeed the third way of setting a condition there is to set the parameters for exactly when that will be. And then again, we just add a third email to the sequence. Welcome series 3. And that's it. Your welcome series is built. As far as the eShot side of things is concerned, I think that's taken me well under 5 minutes, and obviously I've been talking for the majority of it. I'm very, very confident with a little bit of practice, each and every one of you could put one of these together certainly within the same sort of time frames as I've achieved today, as long as you've planned things out, as long as you've set up your emails in advance, as long as you know what you're doing. It's very, very easy to do. And what we'll cover in other sessions, as I say, we wanted to keep these sessions quite punchy today, is there are other things you can do. You can have logic, and you can really mix things up in terms of the conditions to choose whether people go down route 1 or route 2. The other thing you can do is add people to groups. So you might add someone to a group to say welcome series completed, and then you've got a group of people that have gone through that sequence of emails, and then you might want to move them on to other campaigns or automations. Once you're happy with your welcome series, all that you then do at the bottom is save and continue. And there's a couple of important options here which I just want to touch on briefly. Select whether the automated series should be used to all contacts in the target group or newly added contacts. So obviously if there's contacts already in this group that you're using, you don't want to send it to all contacts, because that will trigger to a whole bunch of people that are already in there. So ordinarily for a welcome series, and it does vary depending on the circumstances, you'd choose new contacts only. And you may want people to go through the same sequence again, but ordinarily I'd say it's for a welcome series, again, it's a one-time only gig for new contacts where they're going to be exposed to that sequence of emails. Once that's done and you're finished, that welcome series is then sat there ready to rock and roll. And in the same way you would send for a single send campaign, for an automated series of languages is slightly different. You activate it, and then everything else is pretty much the same. eShot then goes into action and starts sending emails. You then see the automated series in your reports, the same as you would your other types of campaigns. So as you can see, actually putting an email welcome series together in eShot itself is quite a straightforward thing. And what I would encourage you to do, if you haven't used this tool before, have a play with it. Obviously, until you actually hit the activate button, you can't really do any damage. I believe most of you will have testing accounts as well, where you can play around with these things. But you will find the automated series tool to be very, very versatile and a very, very user-friendly way of automating your emails. Now, as I say, the hard part really comes with putting the content together in the first place and making sure you've planned things out properly. If I just come back to my slides, as I say, things can get very, very complicated very, very quickly, which is why I encourage you all to put the time and effort into planning out what you want to do to begin with before you get too deep into it. As I say, I hope that was helpful. I do hope you give it a try. Please remember, training with eShot is always included. So if you need a hand with these things, then just reach out to the team and they will be able to help and guide you. We've got a lot of documentation to help guide you through setting these things up. And indeed, if it's a case of setting up a little session with you to, explain a few more bits about this, then we're very happy to do so. Thank you all very much for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon.